It was supposed to be just another sketch, another laugh in a long line of comedy gold. But in 1989, Benny Hill filmed a scene that would destroy a legacy built over 34 years. Within 48 hours, complaints flooded in, sponsors vanished, and one of the most beloved shows in British television history was gone without a trace. What was in that scene? Why did executives panic? And why were the master tapes ordered to be destroyed? The answers lie deeper than you might think, buried under decades of applause, backlash, and cultural shifts. The truth behind the downfall of Benny Hill is far darker and more mysterious than the punchlines he once delivered. What do you think could possibly take down a comedy legend overnight? Share your thoughts in the comments and, buckle up, this story only gets stranger from here. Before he ever made the world laugh, Benny Hill was simply a boy raised above a butcher's shop in Southampton. But laughter ran in his blood. His grandfather was a circus clown, famed for his physical comedy and improvisation, and his father followed suit. Sundays in their cramped flat weren't quiet, they were training grounds. By the age of 8, Benny was already rehearsing routines and perfecting pratfalls on creaky floorboards. His comedy wasn't learned in drama school, it was drilled into him at home, matching facial expressions to punchlines, using everyday objects as props, and practicing timing like a science. Benny was being groomed unknowingly for television stardom. These moments shaped his style, fast-paced, physical, and wordless enough to transcend language barriers. But even as he rose through the ranks, performing in army shows and eventually making it onto television in 1949, the foundation of his humor in slapstick and spectacle was already starting to look like a relic to some. The question loomed, could the old tricks still survive in a new world that was rapidly evolving? Benny Hill wasn't just a comedian, he was a revolution in motion. By the mid-1950s, he had become television royalty, with a fast, visual style, perfect for the small screen. His signature show, The Benny Hill Show, launched in 1955 and quickly became a national treasure, with his talent for transforming into characters in seconds and using slapstick that made people laugh without saying a word. He redefined British comedy. But it didn't stop at the UK's borders. By the 1970s and 80s, Hill's sketches were airing in over 90 countries. America embraced his late-night antics, Japan broadcasted his reruns, and even non-English-speaking nations tuned in. His brand of comedy, silly faces, fast chases, and wild punchlines needed no translation. With Emmy nominations and massive overseas sales, Benny Hill was no longer just a British icon. He was a global sensation. Yet, even at the height of his success, critics were starting to whisper. A younger generation was calling his humor old-fashioned. Feminist voices were rising. The once adoring crowd was splitting, and behind the scenes, a single sketch was brewing, one that would flip his legacy upside down. In 1989, Benny Hill aired a sketch that looked, at first glance, like business as usual: pretty girls, cheeky humor, and a familiar tune. But this time, something was different. The jokes leaned darker. The women's so-called talents were reduced to clumsy strip teases and lingering shots of exposed skin. The once playful camera now felt voyeuristic, almost leering. It wasn't funny. It was uncomfortable. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Within just 48 hours, over 20,000 complaints flooded in. Major sponsors panicked and pulled out. Feminist groups launched fierce protests. Even Hill's longtime defenders were left speechless. Media outlets described the scene as embarrassingly out of step and a throwback to a culture Britain had left behind. Executives at Thames Television acted fast, not just cancelling the show, but ordering the master tapes destroyed. The urgency was chilling. It was as if they were trying to erase a crime scene. Why would a network go to such lengths? Why not simply shelve the episode? The answer lies in what the sketch represented. It wasn't just a moment of poor judgment, it was a relic of an era crashing headfirst into a cultural reckoning. Benny Hill's comedy, once adored, was now being labeled harmful, sexist, and dangerous. After decades of loyalty, Benny Hill walked into Thames Television expecting to pitch a new season. Instead, he was met with a cold, abrupt message. The show was cancelled. No farewell episode, no thank you tribute, just a severance package and silence. He was offered $1 million on one condition: he couldn't speak about the cancellation, the executives, or even join another network. It wasn't just the end of a show, was an erasure. What shocked many wasn't just the cancellation, it was what came next. Thames didn't store the controversial 1989 sketches. They destroyed the master tapes completely. That's virtually unheard of in TV history. Networks archive everything, even the scandals. But not this. The message was clear. This chapter of British television needed to be buried, not remembered. And Benny, he didn't fight back. He retreated. He moved into a small London flat, stopped appearing in public, and gradually disconnected from the industry he once defined. Friends said he felt betrayed. Audiences were shifting, the culture was changing, and Benny, once the king of comedy, was being cast out like yesterday's news. The man who once made millions laugh was now living in silence. Benny Hill spent his final years out of the spotlight. His legacy clouded by controversy. Offers came in new contracts, fresh opportunities, but he turned them down. Perhaps he no longer trusted the industry that had turned its back on him. Perhaps he knew the world had changed, and his comedy no longer had a place in it. In 1992, he passed away alone in his flat, surrounded by unopened letters and stacks of old videotapes. He was found 2 days later. It was a quiet, somber end. For a man who once united millions in laughter, the tabloids had moved on. The industry had moved on, and the audience that once adored him was now divided, some remembering him fondly, others unable to separate the humor from the harm. The tapes were gone. The applause was gone. All that remained was silence, and questions. Was Benny Hill's downfall a necessary correction, or the tragic erasure of a comedic genius? Did the culture outgrow him, or did we fail to understand him in time? Do you think comedy changed for the better, or did we lose something? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to uncover the next hidden chapter in the world of celebrity history.